Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. It is 8 a.m. Saturday morning. Here in the U.S., it is just after Thanksgiving, so we are all here trying to get a little bit of this weight off. And we are still going to talk sales, still going to double down on what you need to do to really sell effectively through the end of the year. Now, I'm hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter. Now, if Mark looks a little bit tired, it is because he has been hanging out with 5 of the cutest grandchildren you have ever seen. We got a picture from Mark and his beautiful wife, Ann, with their 5 grandkids. And Mark, that looked like a lot of fun.
We had a good Thanksgiving, the first time we had all been together. And of course, you had a great Thanksgiving too, but we got a great show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, right?
We do have a lot of stuff to talk about, because I don't care, even if it is still a holiday week here in the U.S., we are still going to sell and still going to basically move the ball forward. So I'm going to go ahead, start the intro, and we'll dive in. And we got a great show today. Great question from one of our mastermind folks. So stay tuned. Hi, welcome once again. It is time for Sales Logic Live, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell effectively in today's marketplace. Now, before Mark dives in and tells you what we're going to cover on today's show, I want to tell you how the show works. We start off every show with a question from you, the audience. So that's right. You want to be a part of this show? We'll feature you right here. Just send your question to saleslogicpodcast.com, or reach out to Mark, or reach out to me. We cover a hot topic. We recommend a book. And because we want you to leave with return on investment for giving us something precious, your time, we leave you with a lightning round. So Mark, what do we have on tap for today?
Well, what we have on top, the topic is how to sell through a downturn. Downturn in the economy, whatever might be happening out there. The question today comes from Hugh Hornsby in Virginia, great Sales Logic Mastermind member. He writes, while I understand what you are saying in terms of an economic downturn, my fear is that you focus on is what you get. Would love your thoughts. I love this question. I love it.
Why don't you kick off? I always answer first.
Here's the deal.
Go ahead.
This is why I can't stand using that term R. There's an economic term that begins with letter. I don't use it because here's the whole thing. We become who we believe we are. We absolutely do. And if you feel the economy is in a difficult time, it was interesting. The third quarter GDP here in the U.S., 4.9%. Absolutely astronomical. So on the one hand, people are saying that's absolutely huge, but on the other hand, people are saying it all depends on how you look at the glass. Is it half full or half empty? And this is what's key. No customer wants you walking in and say, oh man, it sucks out there. It's terrible. No, what they want is they want answers. They want solutions. So you have got to go in as that positive person. And if you go in as that positive person, you're going to have better conversations, better discussions, and you yourself are going to listen and hear better. I could go on and on forever about this because I believe it is your mindset. I think I did write a book on that. But anyway, jump in.
That's right. I should have done that for the book today. Mark and I could not agree less on this topic. Hugh falls into Mark's camp. I completely fall on the other side. I think as salespeople, what we've got to be is realists. And I think when the marketplace is starting to shift, that what our customers need is somebody who comes in and says, yes, these are challenging times. This is how we can create opportunity in this. This is what's coming there. So unlike what Mark does, I go in and I do use the R word. I do use recession. I do say, at dealing with, I just wrote a just wrote my New Year's letter. Every year I have my New Year's resolutions, the top solutions for turning uncertainty to competitive advantage. And this is going to be, I believe 2024 will be a challenging year. It's an election year. An election year always slows things down. And depending on which way an election comes out, it could be a very different impact on the marketplace. You've got, still the uncertainty of whether interest rates will go up, whether they will go down. So, it's interesting. It's two very different approaches. I feel like customers want to be heard and they want to get that anxiety out of their body. And if you can validate that, yeah, I understand the headwinds coming at you, but here's what we can do to be successful. The one thing that Mark and I do agree on is no matter what the marketplace is doing, it can always be your best year on record.
See, here's something, and I love Dave Sanderson's comment, another member of the Sales Logic Mastermind Group. I believe clients are looking for confidence, competence, and creativity. Now, regardless of which side of the spectrum you fall on, whether it be on my side, the good side, or the dark side, Meredith's side, you still go in with confidence. You still go in with confidence and you go in with creativity to help the customer find solutions. Now, here's the situation. What I found is that it's very easy for people to retrench. And remember, the number one competitor every salesperson faces is no decision.
Yeah.
You see, and my fear is that if we go in and if we deal on the negative, and Mary, I'm going to love to get your comments on this. If you go in and deal on the negative, you're going to encourage the customer to be that much more likely to make no decision. Well, guess what? That creates a more difficult time for me to be able to help you, because I can't truly help you until I sell you. When you can finally begin to participate and reap your rewards of the product or the service I sell, that's only when I can really, truly help you see and achieve what you didn't think was possible. So if I'm doing negative stuff, if I'm talking negative, that slows down that process. Thoughts, ideas?
Yeah. So I think that one of the most important value we bring as salespeople is knowledge. And you have to understand what's happening in the industry that you're selling into and with your clients. I've got a big client right now. And if the presidential election goes Republican, it is going to wipe out so much of their strategy and so much of their plan. If it stays Democratic, they're in really good shape. But you can imagine the fear that they are feeling as they head into 2024. I can't ignore that. I can't just go in selling like everything's great and everything's positive. I've got to go in and talk about, let's get a plan for if things roll in your favor. Here's the plan if things are not in your favor. So I think like ignoring what's happening, but choosing not to participate sends a message. And Mark, I know you don't fall into this camp, but I want to make sure our listeners don't fall into this camp. You have to understand what is happening in the marketplace. You need to understand that 4 billion people this year are going through an election, tension-filled elections globally. You've got to understand what those spiking interest rates are going to mean for the amount of credit that is coming due, that's going to have to be refinanced, and the impact that's going to have on budgets. You have to understand what is happening in the marketplace. If you have companies that get a lot of their supply chain from Taiwan, you need to be paying attention to what's happening with China. So it doesn't mean it can't be the best year on record, but you cannot ignore the things that are happening in the marketplace that your CEOs, CMOs, CROs are worried about. When you can connect and say you understand what they're worried about, you position yourself so much stronger.
I love where this conversation is going because, again, we have to be absolutely prepared. Again, business is all about confidence, and business can deal with almost anything as long as they know this is what's going to take place. If you look at regulations, many times, over the years, there may be an anti-business regulation that comes out, but at least businesses can breathe a sigh of relief if, okay, that's the scorecard. That's what we got to work with. Now, let's back up here for a bit because, again, I'm with you, Mayor. You got to prepare for both sides. You got to be prepared. I'm in my own business, I'm doing the same thing. We encourage all of our clients. But here's the other piece that you have to keep in mind. Many times when we get caught up in economic pieces, we're dealing with macro, with macro numbers. We're dealing with macro situations. We almost universally, unless we're Apple or Coca-Cola or Ford or something like that, you're selling more into micro situations. So here's the key, and this is what I have found has helped me tremendously. We may be in a difficult economic period, or we may be going into a period of uncertainty, and that's fine. That's a macro. Micro, as long as there are still opportunities that I can deal with, and this is what I always find, crisis creates solutions. This is what I
Absolutely.
find. Crisis creates solutions. It is amazing. And if I can keep my head screwed on straight, if I can keep my mind going in the right direction, it's amazing that I can take this crisis and rather than having it throw me over the cliff, I can come out of it really with a much better successful model. This is the challenge I think every salesperson, every company is going to find themselves in 2024.
Yeah, I love what John Register is saying here, and he's an unbelievable speaker about how to transform adversity into advantage. But he says if we can get the people we are selling to into the right mindset, and that is exactly my point, John, is that I can't shift your mindset until I validate your fears, and I validate your fears by saying I understand what's coming at you in the marketplace. I get it. I understand. Like, I don't care if it's macro or micro. We had more bank failures last year than we have ever had in our history. That is going to tighten credit like there's no tomorrow. It is going to be harder to get a loan. That is going to squeeze cash flow coming through the marketplace. That's going to impact budgets. You have got to know these things and understand these things. Now, Mark is 100% right. Every crisis creates a solution. It always creates a solution, but you can't create the solution unless you deal with the reality.
And this means the whole thing of what you have to do is you have to enter into every situation with the mindset that you're going to find a solution. Because again, I've said this all along, your mindset going into a sales call predetermines the results you're going to get coming out. And this is the same way with 2024. I mean, as you begin planning for 2024, if you go into the mindset that, oh, this is going to be a year that it's just going to be hunker down and button down the hatches. And guess what? Those will be the results you will get. Now, this is also the time going into 2024 when you may have your plan, and we'll say it's being $100 million in sales. We'll say that that's your company. In fact, it's funny. I was working with a CRO the other day, and he's got a target on him that he has to achieve. And I told him right up front, I said, if you only build your plan to achieve your target, you will miss your target. You have got to build a plan that's going to achieve your target plus X. Because again, there are going to be things that aren't going to happen. There are things that are going to go sideways. You better plan for it. So again, regardless of which side of the spectrum you fall on, my side or Mir's side, you have to over plan going into 2024 because there will be aberrations. There will be changes. There will be things that just happen. I love John's comment. Yeah, he says, there is so much value in this whole crisis. Who was it? Rahm Emanuel, when he was chief of staff, made the comment. He says, never let a good crisis go to waste. Okay, now a lot of people took that, dark, but he was spot on. He was spot on because it's how do we turn the crisis into our advantage? This is the role that you as a salesperson have to play going into 2024.
And you can definitely go down through history and you can see that every single time that that challenge and crisis has hit the marketplace, people have thrived. But my argument is they haven't thrived because they've ignored or decided not to participate. They've thrived because they've embraced what is happening in the marketplace and adjusted their strategy. One of my favorite stories is about Brooks Brothers, the men's clothing line. And the way they survived the Civil War was not by saying, oh, the Civil War won't impact us. It was by saying, no man in his right mind is going to be buying a suit right now to go to work because everybody's gone to war. So they made suits for the Union Army. They landed the contract to do that. They used the crisis to grow the business. And that is what you have got to do. Now, Neil's a little freaked out that I said that claiming we had more bank failures than any other time in history. But Neil, I hate to tell you this, it's true. We did. It just wasn't publicized very much. But if you are a data geek and a nerd like me, you're diving in and reading those articles and finding that. All right. The man with the question, Hugh Hornsby, is here.
Hey, Hugh, jump in. In fact, I'm going to jump back to Neil. Neil, I haven't heard from you in several years, and you are a data wonk when it comes to banking. Mayor and Neil, you two should get together. You two would have a great...
We should connect.
I tell you what, Neil, I sat and had breakfast with Neil. I won't go down that road, but man, anyway. Hey, Hugh Hornsby, for every negative, there is a positive. Every company that I built and turned around was based on taking a negative and getting people to believe the positive. There is positive to every negative. Yes, this is so true. And again, it comes down to mindset. And Hugh, you're a perfect example of this because the companies you have turned around, same products, same services, same customers, but somehow you were able to turn it around. Why? Because you changed the people. Our attitude going into a situation, absolutely. We see this on the football field. We see this on the basketball court. We see this on the tennis court. We see this on the golf course. It's amazing how the mindset changes everything out there. But you got to go in with the full lens. You got to go in and look at the whole picture and understand what could happen and what will be my response to whatever happens out there.
You know, one of my, I think one of the biggest positives of a shifting marketplace, of a negatively shifting marketplace, is the fact that your competitors pull back. There's two reasons it can be your best year on record. Number one is when the economy goes south, customers need you now more than they ever needed you. In a good economy, I don't really need you because I'm not worried about the budget. If I make a financial mistake, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's the stakes are not as high. But in a downturning economy, I need you. The second is that your competition pulls back. Everybody's fearful of selling in a downturning economy. And if you put your foot on the gas, customers remember who shows up. They will pay money for the right solutions. And you don't have near the competitive stronghold that you do when everybody and their brother is selling.
Yeah. And see, you just touched on something so key. In any time that there's a downturn, this is time to grab market share. This is when you grab market share. I think we're having a bankers fest out here today because Jack Hubbard has jumped in. If I'm a salesperson, I'm going to get to know some bankers that understand the economy and interact. Yes. This is when you actually spread your reach. You create more relationships. Why? Because there are opportunities out there, but you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper for them. And you cannot expect to achieve the same results. What's the old line? If you keep doing what you've always been doing, you can never get something. I don't know how that line goes. But anyway, the whole deal is this. You've got to be able to think differently going into 2024. In fact, I'm going to challenge you right now, everybody listening to this. Make a list of who are the 25 people that you want to get to know in 2024. In fact, in the first quarter of 2024, because what are the new relationships that you can develop? Why? Because it's going to help you weather whatever situation we incur out there.
Yeah. And if I wanted to get to know some bankers, I think my first connection of those 25 might be Jack Hubbard, because I don't know anybody who understands and is better connected in that community than Jack Hubbard. Hugh, back to your original question of what you focus on is what you get and why you're fearful, so to speak, of facing on. I want to tell you a quick story that I wrote about when I wrote the book, Thrive, Turning Uncertainty to Competitive Advantage. And it's a story about Jim Beam whiskey. And Jim Beam actually grew in the days of Prohibition. And one of the reasons was every single competitor that Jim Beam had, everyone ignored Prohibition because everybody, including Jim Beam, never believed that Prohibition would become law. They just didn't think that would happen. But Jim Beam got ready for it anyway. He accepted the negative. And so long before he had to, he diversified his income streams. And in diversifying his income streams, when Prohibition happened, he was the only one who didn't declare bankruptcy. So he didn't, what he did was, we call it in the book, according to the U.S. military, embracing the suck. But he dealt with the reality in front of him. And that's why I don't think we can run from it.
Oh, you know, I love what you're saying there. Embrace the suck. Hostess. I don't know if you've ever had a Twinkie. You probably never have had a Twinkie in your life. A hostess.
I have.
Okay. Oh, whoa. Mary's actually had something unhealthy.
You
But
should have seen what I ate on Thanksgiving Day.
okay, go back about 10 or 15 years ago. Maybe it was 10 years ago. And Hostess Interstate Bakeries declared bankruptcy, and they were written off. And what's amazing is the turnaround that they've had. They jettisoned a whole, but they repositioned themselves, and they were recently sold for $5.4 billion to J.M. Smucker Company. This is a company that was absolutely bankrupt. See, so don't think for a moment that crisis doesn't create opportunities. It does. But
I agree.
You've got to go into everything saying, what's the information I need to know? What's the solution I can begin to develop? I love the comments that are coming in.
Great.
Developing relationships and focus on positive solutions. Very important. Spot on there.
Yeah. And Neil, chiming back in, economies are the result of population, resources, infrastructure, technology. Which of these do we have less of today than any time in the past? The fear mongering about the economy is not justified. Absolutely. It is about dealing with the reality is that there is significant uncertainty today, but it is not uncertainty that is without opportunity. Neil could not be more right. I mean, that is the one place that Mark and I agree completely. It doesn't matter the shifts happening in the marketplace, whether they're, whether it's all being painted rosy and healthy, or whether it's being, painted as challenged. The other is, I'm a big student of history. And right now I'm reading a book about Teddy Roosevelt and the turn of the century. You want to talk about uncertainty? Oh my God. I mean, it's unbelievable. We have always been here. We have always dealt with uncertainty, and companies have always flourished through it. But you got to be open to changing your strategies. And I think probably one of the biggest pitfalls of salespeople is not educating yourselves. You need to understand more about what is happening in the industry that you're selling into than the people you're selling to. That's your job, is to be the expert, not only on your own products and services, but about what they're dealing with.
That's so true. I mean, you got to get knowledgeable about your industry. I find so many salespeople, they are in the dark ages when it comes to what's happening out there. Like you said, you're reading a book on Teddy Roosevelt. I just got done reading the book on Elon Musk. I mean, you've got to diversify your knowledge base out there if you want to be able to keep up with the opportunities that are out there. Because again, crisis seeks an answer, and you have to be prepared. Can you be the one to absolutely do it? John Register, I love your comment. He's going to play devil's advocate. Some people I looked up to as speakers checked out during the pandemic. I thought they would not get work on a change mindset because of it. I was wrong. This is so. You know what's very interesting? In difficult times is when we really realize what people are really capable of. Because anybody, the old adage about leadership, anybody can lead when times are good. It's when times are bad that you really understand leadership. This is the thing with selling right now. Almost, if we go into difficult times, this is when we're going to really find out who can really sell out there. Love you.
Oh, absolutely. John is asking who can sell to those who how do you sell to those that are risk adverse? John, great question. And number one is acknowledge the elephant in the room. I mean, there's I'm working with a mortgage company right now, big mortgage company. Now, imagine anybody trying to sell a mortgage right now. What's the biggest fear of anybody you're trying to sell a mortgage to? What is it?
Well, it's interest rates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is every mortgage banker out there doing? What are they ignoring? They're ignoring interest rates. So in working with a mortgage company, we said, what's the biggest challenge? If you do not address the fear of who you are selling to, John, to your point, if I want to help people who are risk adverse, I need to say, Mark, I know the biggest challenge you've got right now, the biggest fear you've got in buying a home is interest rates. Let me tell you how we have helped other clients deal with challenging interest rates. And we built a whole sales model around the elephant in the room. So if you want to sell people who are risk adverse, I can't tell you what it is because it's just for that company that I worked with, but they're probably set for a better year in 2023 than they had in 2022 because we didn't run away from the risk. We addressed it and let that client know we've got a solution for it. That's how you sell to people who are risk adverse.
And I love it. Also, keep your focus on the long term. It's so easy for us when things are difficult. We focus on today. You know what? It's interesting. The sun's going to come up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Focus on the long term. It's amazing. The valleys are never as deep as you think they are, and the mountaintops are never as high as you think they are. But if you can help your customers see longer term, see the long picture, it is amazing at what will happen. Just go back and study any major company as to how they weather. You wrote the book on it. You profile so many of those companies, just as you talk about Brooks Brothers back during the Civil War. They were manufacturing uniforms, military uniforms. Why? Because they saw that was their opportunity today, but it allowed them to stay around. Natalie, another Sales Logic Mastermind member. We're in times of constant change. You need to surround yourself with leaders who give you new ideas. It's so true. You become who you hang out with the most. Can't say that enough. That's why we love the Sales Logic Mastermind.
Yeah, I love this. Surround yourself with leaders who give you new ideas because, Natalie, I think what you are saying is so incredibly powerful because the challenges that will come in 2024, you cannot use the same strategies to solve those problems. And so new ideas, new ways of doing things are really, really important. I mean, think about Brooks Brothers. Think about Jim Beam. They couldn't go at growth the same way they had always gone at growth. They still grew. They had to go at it a different way. So incredibly important. Wow, Mark, we are burning time.
We are really burnt time. We got to jump into the book. And of course, this is a book that I hope nobody has read it only once, but you read it every year. The book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. In fact, everything Napoleon Hill has written, you got to grab.
Yeah, I went back and I put this on my Audible and I just started listening to it again. Think and Grow Rich is a book I think you should read at least every couple of years. I mean, just really good strategies in it and really good timeless ideas on how to grow no matter what the marketplace is doing.
There's so much content in there. And again, like you said, you can read it. And I love the fact that you got it as an Audible. You put it on when you're in your car, you put it on when you're working out. This is the type of stuff that what you put into your mind, it absolutely impacts how you think. Hey, we got a great comments continue to roll in, but we got to get to the lightning round. But we should talk about the Sales Logic Mastermind. Jump out to saleslogicpodcast.com. And we encourage you to join us on the journey of the Sales Logic Mastermind because there's so much content out there. But anyway, okay, lightning round. Top 10 ways to position yourself for success in a tough market. Go.
Number one is go out and listen to your customers right now. Get a good understanding of the challenges they're facing.
2, surround yourself with positive people who can lift you up, not pull you down.
Yeah, I would say join a mastermind, get a group of people that you can, run ideas by that hold you accountable. Mark and I are in one, and we're getting ready to go away for our mastermind weekend. And I'm kind of really getting my thoughts together on how to leverage that group.
Number 4, hey, be careful as to what you are reading and what you're experiencing. You got to read everything out there, but make sure that you focus on what's going to drive you forward in your industry with your customers.
Yeah. Number 5, invest in building your network. This is a time to really invest in building those relationships so that when you are challenged, you have the connections you need to help you through.
Number 6, play the long game. Never focus solely on the short game. Play the long game and you'll be successful.
Yeah. Understand the industry you're selling into. Carve out time on a daily basis to educate yourself about what your customers are going through.
Number 8, embrace the crisis. Love the crisis. Take it. Use it to your advantage to find opportunities.
Yeah. Number 9, I would say put your foot on the gas. You need to increase the sales activity that you've got. You're going to need to do more of it in order to get the results that you're looking for.
And number 10, make that list of people who you want to reach out to and talk to. Get to know more people, additional people who can increase your knowledge base going into 2024. And with that, we want to say, hey, thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Because if we've helped you earn a single dollar, it's how we grow when we help you grow. Hey, I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes
logical.
We're both having issues this morning. I love it.
I think right? Probably still a little too much turkey in you. All right. Go to saleslogicpodcast.com. Check out the mastermind. We'd love to have you in there for 2024, talking about these topics, so much more to help you really grow your pipeline, build your network, and get the sales results. So join us right back here next week, 8 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of Sales Logic. You are the most unbelievable audience. I think Neil added a good one too. He said, you may want to add harness the power of generative AI. So true. Great ad. So, all right, we'll see you right back here next week. Have a great weekend.